Hello builders, and welcome to another building video with me, your buddy Stone. Today I have for you the giver of eggs, the creator of nuggets. It's poultry everywhere, the Sussex Chicken. Now you might be saying, Stone, why are you giving the chicken their own habitat? Surely you could just have them go into another habitat with a different animal. And to you I say, nay sir, nay. I'm not about half measures here. I want to give the chickens their own habitat, and by God I'm going to give them their own habitat. And they're going to live in style. We are creating right now a giant windmill that will double as a chicken coop for the sweet little Sussex chickens. And not only that, but guests will be able to walk through the chicken coop and pet the little sweet chickens, because I'm sure they want to be pet and not get mad and peck out guests' eyes. Surely not. So the building is rather simple. We are just going to be using the rustic European walls and coloring them up a little bit just to make them a little bit more brighter and white, and then adding in a little bit of wood for the ground and a little bit for the chickens to rest in. Now I originally hoped that I could get the chickens to stay inside of these watermill pieces, hoping that the chickens could actually use them as little roosts, but the chickens wouldn't clip inside of it, so I ended up removing them in the end. And the top half will be fixed with a little hole so the chickens can crawl inside, and we'll build a little ladder out there to let the chickens get in and out with ease. As you'll notice, the windmill will be accompanied later on with a bunch of fields and grasses all over the place, because I want the whole area to look like a farm and feel like a farm. And overall, I think we accomplished that. If you want to see how this whole area turned out, then check out that link down below. And if you like the way this whole windmill turns out, then also that link down below to the workshop item is there, and you can download it and put it in your own zoos. And this top part, we are just going to decorate a little bit with some arbor pieces and color them to make them look a little bit more like natural wood instead of that weird blue that is the default color. And when we're happy with one side, we will then copy it over to the other side to help save some time, as it's just going to be a mirror image. Always be using copy paste. It will save you so much time in the long run. I know I say that in a lot of my videos, but I have to emphasize it. I wouldn't be able to build this zoo as big as it has without that copy paste, otherwise I would have gone insane long ago. Now let's get the ramp built for the chickens. We're going to do a ramp on both sides, and both ramps are going to lead to slightly different areas, as you'll see in the end result. One will lead just to a little hillside, and another will lead to a field for the chickens to feast upon. But before we can get onto the whole habitat build, let's finish this off, shall we? We're just going to build the top of the windmill now. Have it get a little bit narrower near the top, then we'll add in the windmill blades. For the roof pieces, I'm just using the Twilight pack. I love these little tile roofs that pack comes with, and they have served me well in these European areas. And then we just add in a little bit of detailing with some wood just to make it look a little less boring, as I always love doing a little bit of extra trimming on the roofs. And as always, we'll copy paste one corner around all the way through. For these little stone pieces around the edges, we are using the European bridge pieces. I find they work quite well with doing also detailing on stone buildings. Another good example of you don't have to use a piece for its intended purpose. They are supposed to be used for bridges, but you can use them for whatever you want. Same goes for any other piece in the game. Try experimenting and just see what works. Flip things upside down, flip them sideways, do whatever you want, and just try using pieces in different ways. The only real limitation in this game is your own imagination. Imagination, imagination. For the top of the windmill, I am going to add in these wooden walls just to give it a little bit of a rustic feel, and I will also change the color of the roof to make it a little bit more brown and wood colored. Once all these little details are in, we can then finally do the blades for the windmill. And for that, we are going to be using the arbor pieces like we did down below for the chicken coop, just coloring them white to make them look like cloth sails. And with one blade done, it's a quick and easy copy paste to get the others in place. Then I give it a little bit of rotation to make it look like it's in motion. And after that I decide, hey, you know what, let's just put another one on the other side. I know windmills generally don't have double blades, but I wanted to do it anyways just because it adds a little bit more to the building. Now with our main centerpiece for this habitat complete, let's come in and do a little bit of landscaping. Of course, I don't like having flag exhibits, so we're going to have the windmill situated on top of a hill, and behind that we'll put a couple little fields and some education areas for guests to hang out in. And now it's time to add in a little bit of pathing for the guests. I do know you don't have to have pathing through the entire habitat now with the new update, but I still like to have a dedicated path going throughout the whole habitat, and then guests can decide to walk on and off if they so choose. With the river flowing through this entire area, we're going to have to add in a little bit of fencing to keep those chickens out. Even though I'm pretty sure they don't swim, but still we need to take our precautions in the zoo. Chickens are basically tiny dinosaurs, and we do not want those little dinosaurs escaping. After all, it didn't work out well for Jurassic World or Jurassic Park, and we don't want to end up like them now, do we? I ain't no John Hammond. And it only took about halfway through the video before we can start on my favorite part of the build. It's the rock work, the best work. Probably the most important work involved in creating these habitats. You have to put a solid base down quite literally with these rocks, and then from there you can add in all the trees and grasses, but without these rocks it just doesn't look as good. And as I'm always saying over on my Twitch channel, more rocks equal more good. Put down tons of rocks and your habitats will look glorious every time. In between doing the terrain and the rocks, we can't forget to add in a few little toys and feeders for the chickens. I always do this with all my habitats. Before I get too ingrained in the rock work, I want to make sure that I know where all of the stuff is going so I can leave room for it. And when doing your rock work, always leave room for a little bit of moss around the water edge. It just makes things look a little bit more realistic, as moss tends to grow in more damp areas. Around the back end of the habitat, I want to add in a little rocky wall, but I don't want to go too high like a full cliff, just enough to keep the animals and guests out. Beyond that, we're just going to have a bunch of trees and plants back there to make it look like a woodland area. This doubles not only as a barrier for the habitat, but also serves to distinguish this zone from its neighboring zone. I do this for all my sections of the zoo, so when guests are in one section, they cannot see anything in the other sections. It makes each one look like their own independent zoo. And in case you're wondering what will be going on the other side of this little hill, it will be the African section. That will be coming up way later. Right now we are currently working on Australia, and I plan to do Asia after that, but one day we will get to doing our African section. If you want to see the whole planned map for the zoo, feel free to join the Discord where I have the image posted there for people to look at and comment on. Link is in the description down below to join the Discord. So now it's time to start building the first big field of this habitat. It's going to be very similar to what we did for the sheep and alpaca habitat, which was the last video I released, where we're just going to use some mulch as the base and then put a bunch of plants and trimming with wood around the edges and put a couple feeders in there to attract the chickens to it. Very simple design, but it works very well for immersive reasons to have the chickens foraging for food in the fields. In reality, it's probably the last place a farmer wants his chickens to be going and destroying his crops, but hey, this is going to be our zoo and we can do what we want. One piece that I seldom ever use in any of my builds are these weird hull pieces from the Arctic set. But you know what, I found a great spot for them right here as little braces to hold back the wall of dirt above them. And now that the field is mostly complete, before we get into the vegetation, let's finish off the rest of this rock work and moss work, the best work. Now, what did I say earlier in the video about copy pasting? I love it. This is where copy paste really comes in handy. If you've built something in another habitat and you want to just reuse it, go just grab it and copy it over to the new one. And that's exactly what we do here. We take the little feeding stall that was in our alpaca and sheep habitat and repurpose most of the structure for this building. Mostly this serves as a little bit of a scenery decoration, as the windmill is used to grind up, well, wheat and grains, so we gotta stock it full of that stuff. Let's add a cute little picket fence to the side here, because we can't have guests falling down and bonking their heads now, can we? I'm sure the chickens would love that, however, being the vicious little dinosaurs that they are. And just for fun, let's add in some crates and just have them full of eggs. We can pretend that those eggs are shipped out to the restaurants around the zoo. But now it's time to do the final touches of the habitat. It's time to add in all of the plants. Make it all come to life with green. We start off by just doing a little bit around the river, adding some beautiful plants, making the whole thing look vibrant and green. And from there we'll move on to the rest of the habitat. When doing the fields, we're just going to add in random plants, put them down in lines to make it look like they've been planted properly, and then we'll just let the chickens roam around and eat what they want. And partially through decorating, the chickens had finally arrived, and then that's when I realized that I had made a mistake and they could easily escape around the back end of the habitat. Those damn escaping chicken dinosaurs. So I had to go through and find out where the rocks that they could jump on were located, and just slowly raise them up and prevent the chickens from flying up over there. Not to mention, I also discovered that the chickens couldn't use their ramps up or their doors to get inside of their little chicken coop, so that all had to be adjusted and widened as well. And to my dismay, there was one more problem. I discovered that the watermill pieces that I hoped the chickens would roost in were not working, so all that had to come out as well. Much sadness was had. But these things happen when you design hard shelters for your animals. Sometimes they just can't path in there and you have to adjust on the fly. With that crisis averted, it's now time to go back outside and finish off the rest of the habitat. For this final field, I decided to make it just a big old wheat farm to supply the windmill with, well, wheat to be ground up. Well, now we are nearing the end of the video. I want to thank everyone for watching this far, and I really hope you enjoyed this build as much as I enjoyed creating it for you. And if you really did enjoy it, why don't you hit that like button and leave a little comment down below. I love hearing feedback from people, whether it's good or bad. I like criticism, as it helps me grow as a builder and helps improve my creativity. And if you want to come say hi in person, feel free to join my Twitch channel and follow me over there. Link is in the description down below. I always love hearing from people and getting some feedback as I build live. I don't just play Planet Zoo, I do also play other games live on Twitch. Basically anything that lets me build and be creative and just express my creativity. And one more reminder is if you want to download this windmill, it is up on the workshop and that link will be down below for you as well. Well, builders, I'm going to leave you here with one final cinematic route tour of this build. Hope you enjoy it, and I hope you have a great day. Happy building, everyone. Goodbye.